there are 7 reasons why retail failures usually happen, and it doesn't matter. There are many retailers who've been successful in the past for many years, but they've gone on to become overnight failures. And I want to share these 7 reasons why most retailers who have struggled, why they failed. So the first one is about derailed strategies, because if you what I find, first of all, let me context this. Most of the retailers, unfortunately, they see something called supply chain as a function which is called logistics or warehousing or transportation. And as a result, they have a completely different perspective about what that means. So they can't bring in efficiency and effectiveness because they can't simply streamline the vertebrae of the retail business, which is the supply chain, which is the end-to-end, which is cash to cash. So most of the retailers don't have a supply chain function for a start, which has the integrated approach. And even if they do, they have a misaligned strategy. What does that mean? Well, the supply chain strategy has to be in line with the business strategy, and the business strategy has to be in line with the corporate strategy. It's not the other way around. The corporate strategy doesn't dictate or drive the business strategy and the supply chain strategy. Supply chain strategy is there to support the businesses, and the business strategy would be to then make sure that all three are in line. So when you don't have a business strategy in alignment to a corporate strategy and the supply chain strategy, there will be derailment. So it's not a derailment doesn't happen overnight. Derailment has already happened way before the crash. Crash happens instantly or overnight, whereas derailment has already happened long time ago, and you can already see the train going in a different direction. So that's very important to make sure the strategy is, first of all, to have one, and secondly, to have the alignment. Second reason a lot of retailers struggle with, they are so focused inwardly, because a lot of companies, retailers have been successful in the past. However, live on past glory and past laurels. Living on them is absolutely suicidal and asking for trouble, because what happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, leave alone 5 years ago, it is of no significance now, because the world is moving at that pace. You can't even predict what's going to happen in the next 6 months. That is how difficult it has become, because seasonalities, climate changes, consumer savvy, competitors coming in, because it's a seamless world, it's a global village. I could be traveling from Melbourne in Australia to Singapore, having lunch the same day, having dinner in Dubai on the same evening. And so consumers too are very savvy, and they've been traveling around the world. So if you actually look at it from a consumer's perspective, they have a choice. If you don't take the focus away from your internal navel gazing, as I call it, and focus on the customers, it will be too late. And that's what is happening to a lot of retailers, that the competitors have actually gone and taken them like parasites or piranhas. They come and taken away the market share, and very soon you are struggling with challenges like age inventory, cultural issues, talent acquisition or retaining top talent. And so take the focus away from attention in and put it on to attention out. Next reason why retailers fail is because it's what I call trust versus trustworthiness. Trust is about your integrity. Trust is about your character. Trust is about, I trust someone because they are a good person. Trustworthiness is completely different. That's based on your competency. Now, in the world we live in today, that if I use the analogy, in the 1960s, medical science was a medical practice. So if you go for a heart surgery, someone goes for a heart surgery, there's a 50-50 chance that person might survive, because medical science was not that advanced. But we've come into the 21st century, where a lot of these surgeries are done with the use of technology and instruments. And so there's a 95% chance of success rather than the 50%. But the instruments are all governed by a medical doctor or a medical surgeon, who's an MBBS surgeon at least. And that's the same thing with retail. Retail has advanced to a space where we're now having sophisticated smart systems called SAP, Retech, Oracle, etc. However, you need smart people to be behind the system so that they can get the maximum advantage of how do you optimize the inventory, how do you optimize the sell-through, the stock turn, the average stock, the forward weeks cover, days cover. How do you manage all this? And that's where it's important to make sure that you have the right people behind the system. It's rubbish in, rubbish out, what you feed into the system. And for that, you need competency and you need specialized skills. So if you don't have competency and specialized skills, what that does is the senior leaders will not have, you're not trustworthy is what they will say. And then the time for promotion comes up, you might be the one missing out on that. Employee disengagement. Because if you don't have the right arm and the left arm speaking to each other, and obviously then that leads to the employees getting frustrated because, double handling, triple handling, and obviously chaos. That also leads to employee disengagement, and because communication is not clear, that leads to message failure, and that leads to more frustration. And that's another reason why a lot of retailers fail, because they simply fail to communicate and engage with a wider team. Mediocre execution is the other one. Why retailers fail? Because you are only as good as you might have the perfect plan, but if you fail to execute it properly, then that is also another disaster in the making, and retailers obviously go on to fail. One of my classics, in fact, one of my most favorite, and I say most, I suppose the disappointing aspect of a lot of retailers, they work in silos, and I'm talking about big retail giants. They know very well that they need to integrate, but they don't. Because why? Because there's power play, and there is, ego is coming in the way, and how can I be inferior to you? So look at this as a holistic approach, and as a CEO of a retail organization, you should. My view is that you should go on to have the integrated approach. We took a broken company as one of the largest department store chains in Australia, or the largest department store in Australia. We changed the entire landscape by having this integrated approach. We took a broken company, almost gone belly up, and put on significant profit dollars to the bottom line because we removed the silo mentality. It's about the mistaken identity that supply chain is only logistics and transportation. No, it's not. Supply chain is the business, and the competition is no longer between retailers, it's a competition between supply chain and supply chain. So better get your supply chain right. And these are some of the reasons why, the three main reasons why retail CEOs and retail professionals struggle. They don't know what they want. They don't know, even if they know what they want, they don't know how to get it, or someone or something is coming in the way. So I'm going to leave you with these thoughts, and I'm sure if you take these notes, these tips that I've given you, we put measures in place, and then you can go on to have a world-class retail organization without too much of an investment also.